Good morning, everybody. I'm Stacy from the Iowa City Public Library, here to talk to you about some Gmail tips and tricks. We're going to start with 3 umbrella topics: clearing your account of unneeded emails, choosing a setup that works for you among their various settings, and then being confident that you can find old emails whenever you need to. If there's time at the end, we might go into some topics we had last year in a more Gmail tips and tricks, which was about sending emails. So there's some features that you might not have noticed that let you do some advanced sending options. And so we'll get to that if we have time. But please ask me questions as we go, and certainly save questions for the end as well. I am going to be using the web browser version of Gmail so that you can see it clearly. But personally, I use it in a web browser on my laptop at home. On my phone, I just use it in the gallery, and I sometimes use the app, but that's not my favorite. So if you have app questions, please ask them, but I might have to get back to you after I do a little research. And I tried to get my phone to display on the computer, and it's not liking that today. So if you have app questions, I'll kind of try to show you, but it won't be as perfect as it could be. Bear with me. Let's see. I'll go ahead and get started, and I will share my screen so that we are all looking at Gmail together. Is that looking good for everybody? Great, thank you. So our first topic is cutting down on thousands of unread emails. Maybe you have thousands, maybe you are better than that, but it is definitely a problem for kind of everybody. Email overload is, quote, the feeling of stress and anxiety caused by an inbox of unanswered emails. Since people have been having this problem for a decade or more, there's lots of advice online about it. And then there's also whole books about email, such as A World Without Email by Cal Newport. So if this is a problem and you need some commiseration, you can definitely find some online. And one way of looking at the problem is that we lose perspective on what's essential and what can be ignored. So as we go through the tips and tricks, think about how you use email, what's essential for you, and what is sort of taking up your time that you really ignore safely. So depending on what's important to you, feel free to listen or zone out for the things that are relevant for you. Okay, and having too many emails sort of depends on the way you act when an email arrives. So there's kind of just a handful of choices of what you can do when an email shows up for you in Gmail. You could delete it immediately without opening it, like I'll do for this one. I'm just going to click the checkbox next to this security alert because it knows I logged in on this computer today. And then I'm going to go to the trash can to delete it. So I don't need to read that email. You could also read the email immediately and respond, or if it's something like news, you could read it and then throw it out. You could read it immediately, but leave it in your inbox. So like maybe I read this email from Candace and I left it here for me to reply to later. You could read it, leave it in your inbox, and then add a star to remind yourself that you should do something about it later. So if my hold is ready, I may give it this little blue star so that I would remember to go pick it up later. You could choose to not open the email and put a star on it to come back to it later. You can do the snooze option, which I'll tell you later, or you can move it directly into a folder via using their labels. So there's all of these options, right? And so if you can come up with a system that works for you so that you don't have to think each time, you can just do your system and you'll know what you need to come back to and what you can throw out, then hopefully that will make your life a little bit better. But if your inbox is already there and it's kind of a mess, there are some steps we can take to clean it up. And one is to stop those emails from coming. So if there's something that you don't want to receive anymore, you should unsubscribe to it. And that's at the bottom of pretty much every email that you get from a company or an organization. It is a legal requirement for them to put something about unsubscribing at the bottom. And sometimes they try to hide it a little bit or make it not so obvious, but you should be able to get to it. Um, and so if I click on that and unsubscribe, then within a couple of weeks, I should no longer get those emails. Sometimes they have them queued up well in advance, and so they might say it will take, so many days before they are able to stop sending.
Stacy, sometimes, I know how to unsubscribe, but sometimes I'm worried about opening one. I'm not sure if I really should open something to get unsubscribed. Maybe you'll get to clues on that later.
That's a great question. So opening an email just in itself is not going to do any damage. So just the fact of opening an email won't put a virus on your computer or anything. You would have to click on something in that email. Okay. But I can understand that if you thought, well, is this a spam email? And then they've got an unsubscribe link, that could be not exactly an unsubscribe. It could be the action that does something bad. That is a good point. And if that was the case, rather than clicking on unsubscribe, up along the top here, there's report spam. And so that's probably what I would do just to get rid of it. If you didn't want to do that, there's another option where you can block the sender. Try to find what that is. Yeah, so in the 3 dots for extra things that I can do with this email, one of them is block that sender.
Okay, so then, am I right? It's always okay to open, but then if it looks suspicious, I could go to the 3 dots and say block. Yeah. That, or I could just delete it after opening.
Yeah, yes. So you report spam if you think other people are going to have the same problem. If you're not sure and you just want to stop being harassed by somebody, you can block so that no emails from this newsletters at iowapublicradio.org ever come through to me again. Just hide them. Or of course you can just delete it and maybe it's a one-time thing and you don't have to think about it anymore.
So that's reassuring. I didn't know that it was always okay to open it. So that's reassuring. I won't live in so much fear.
If you block someone, when they try and send you an email, what does it say to them?
This came up last time. I'm pretty sure that they don't even know. So I'll double check that again and I'll send a follow-up email to be sure. Does the block sender know you blocked them? I'll double check that, but I think Gmail wants you to be safe. And so they don't want, if you're blocking it from somebody who you know in real life, who might mean you harm or some organization that's gonna be upset, they want to preserve your privacy to some extent. They want to also, you violate your privacy a little bit for their ads and things like that. But in terms of the email, they're treating you as their customer.
Stacy, when you talked about deleting email, you checked the box and then you went to the line above. If you just click on an email and you go way over to the right, there is also a little trash can.
Oh yeah.
Is that the same action, or does one delete it differently depending on which way you do it?
That is the same action. You're right. So hovering over it gets you the icon on the right, or clicking on it gets you the icon at the top. Or if I'm in that email, I get that same trash can icon at the top. And it will put all of those into my trash, which I can find on the left here. And so everything that I've trashed, this is a sort of fake account for demonstration purposes. So it's going to look different than your trash where you'll have more variety, but it puts it all into this one folder. And so if you accidentally do that or you change your mind within 30 days, you'll still see it there. Otherwise, it gets automatically cleared out monthly.
So how did you get there?
So if you're at this column on the left, where you see
I can't even find the screen. Mine has so much less on it. It doesn't show like the column on the left. It doesn't show, it does show who's sending it, but it doesn't, and then that's about it.
Are you in the app on your phone or on a computer screen?
I am on my phone. I'm looking at now because I'm using my iPad for
Yeah.
the Zoom.
So I don't have an easy way to share this, but let me just hold
No,
this up
on your
to the
phone, you
screen
don't,
in case.
you,
I
yeah,
know
you
my-
don't.
Yes,
what-
that's what it looks like. And it's so awkward to delete something, you have to do like 3 processes.
Oh, I'll show you a trick for that. So if I want to get rid of this IPR email, I can just grab a hold of it and swipe it to the left, and it's going to put it in my archive. So that's what that little box with the down arrow indicates, that it's going to sort of save it in a folder, but I don't have to look at it anymore. I don't have
Okay, let me try that. Just okay, here. When I swipe, oh, you're saying just puts it in a folder. Okay.
yeah.
But wait a second, you can also open up the email and up at the top, there's the little trash
trash
can.
Can,
And you
yes,
just
that
touch
is
the
one
trash
way.
can and you delete it that way.
Right, but sometimes I don't even want to open it just because
If
it's,
you have a lot that you know that you don't want to deal with, yeah. And so your question was, where is the trash? So there's these 3 lines at the top up here on mine. I don't know if
yes,
you can see. That's sort of the menu, and that pops up. It's sort of exactly what we're seeing on the browser version. So I've got my inbox, the starred, snoozed, important, sent, draft, spam, trash.
I actually, I'm seeing it on this one. That should. Oh, there I do. I have to, okay.
Yeah, the iPad might, since the screen's a different size, it might be a little different than on my little phone. But hopefully you'll still see that hamburger menu is what they call it when it's 3 lines, because it looks like a burger buns around it. There is a chat saying on Joanne's iPhone, if you slide right, it deletes, and maybe left archives. This is a setting that you can control. So I obviously haven't set it up on mine, but we can get into those details at the end, or I can email it to you afterwards for how you can set it up. Thanks, Joanne.
Okay, thank you. It just seems very awkward.
Right, so they're trying to get some of the features out of the way so you're just seeing your emails, but in the course of things, how do you learn about those features? Yeah, that makes sense.
Exactly.
So let me come back to sharing my screen. And any other questions before we keep moving along? We were talking about subscribing. Was there anything about that? One trick that I've heard someone use is if they're trying to narrow down things a lot, you can put unsubscribe in your search box, and it'll pull up all of your emails that have that required legal thing at the bottom where they give you that option. And so it could be a quick way to realize, oh, I'm still getting those poetry emails. I should unsubscribe from those. After I've done this search, I'm going to click back on my inbox on the left. So I'm just back to looking at my normal pile of emails. Okay, yeah, so next on my list was archive versus trash. So this is kind of already come up. In my column on the left here, I'm going to go to more so that I can see that I've got my trash as well as, I should be able to see, I guess I can't see my archived ones separately here, but I can see my all mail, which would include everything that's in my inbox right now and everything that's been archived. So the difference here is that trash is permanent, although after 30 days, that email is gone, whereas the archive just gets the email out of your site so that it's not bothering you, but if there's a chance you might need to refer to it later, then you can find it by either searching for that word in your email or going back to all mail and hunting it down by date or just by browsing. Most emails take up a very, very little space, like 4 kilobytes, which is nothing. So there's kind of no harm in saving emails in the archive in case you might need them later. Is someone going to say something?
Yeah, so I want to be sure I understand that. So if I see an email and I think, oh, I may want to deal with this sometime, so I don't want it to be deleted in a month, then I move it to all mail.
Well, so what you'll do is if I want to archive this one about Caitlin Clark, in case I want to send that to somebody later or something, it's this box up here that says
Oh.
archive. So sort of like
Okay.
if you're going to stuff it in a box and stick it in the garage, it's there, but you're not seeing it right now.
Didn't know about that button. Okay, thank you.
And it's also there if you hover, and it's the same option along the top when you're in the email. So I do this all the time just because I'm kind of, maybe I'm not a pack rat, but I'm a librarian and I want all the information if I might need it later. So you might decide that the archive is for you, that you want to really be strict, either keep the email or delete it. Any of these options are fine. But for me, if I archive, say, some of my emails that come from companies so that I'm not seeing them in my inbox, and I'll show you how to do that later. I can always search for, Joann Fabrics when I'm in the store and find my coupon, and I don't have to necessarily see that store name all the time and be influenced to thinking about that store, right? So you can do that for lots of different. That brings me
This is
to,
TJ. Wait, before you move on, so if you click on all mail, to get back to the view that I have right now, which is just my inbox, I can just click back to my inbox and be taken to what I think of as are my active emails.
Yeah.
Which I'm looking forward to folders, let me tell you.
yeah, so folders are actually these labels down here. I'll come to those in a minute, I
That's,
think.
that's fine, but for me, I like to say things too, but it would be nice if it was in a folder that, here's all my Walmart bills.
Absolutely. So I have this label for Candace, and you see I've got 2 Candace emails in here, and I'll talk about labels in a minute too. Sorry that I'm jumping around. If I'm ready to sort of archive this Candace conversation, I can put it in the archive and we'll see that Candace should change from 1 to 2. Or I can also move to. So I'm going to move this out of my inbox to the Candace folder, quote unquote. Or I could move it to spam or trash, but that's a little bit of that's an extra step that you wouldn't probably do. You can't move it to the archive because there's a separate button for that. But let me just archive this one, and we should see the Candace label change. Now I have 2 from Candace and the Candace label. It didn't change the number, but it will change it later. Okay. Was there a second person asking a question at the same time as TJ?
So if you click it again because it doesn't show up right away, will it save it twice?
If I click
I
on what?
agree.
Because it doesn't show up right away in the Canvas.
Oh,
If
well,
you- how do you know that you actually, it did it? And sometimes my
It's a-
memory isn't always so great.
it's this one. So it did work. It just, I don't know why it's not updating the number in there. If
It
I,
has something to do with because one is read and one is unread in your Candace,
oh,
in your
yeah,
Candace thing.
that's a good point. I'm going to leave this other Candace one unread so that we
Okay.
see how that looks in a
My
minute.
other question is if you click archive, does it go to all mail or does it go to Candace or does it go to both?
Yeah, let's do this one. So I've got this IPR email that's a shortage of baby formula. So we should be able to search for that pretty easily. If I were to move this to the Candace folder, I could find it either by clicking on the Candace label, here's baby formula, or if I go to my all mail and I search for baby formula, because I don't know how long ago this was. Well, we probably all remember how long ago it was. And people were talking about it, but here's that particular one. It's got the Candace label on it. So if that was important to me, that I remembered that it was related to Candace, it's there, but it's also just hidden in this all mail section so that I don't see it in my inbox anymore. So if I'm treating my inbox like a to-do list, I need to do something for each of these emails that I've left hanging around. And I decided I'm done with that. I can put that in the archive and stop thinking about it. Does that make sense?
Is
But
there
you'd
a way,
still be able to
once,
find it in the Candace?
I can find it in both places. Yeah.
And archive
Yeah.
it.
Right. So this is a little bit of a difference. This is a real librarian thing to talk about, but it's sort of the difference between putting a piece of paper physically in a folder and then it's only in that one place. You can only find it there versus tags. So if I've got that email, I can tag it with Candace as well as archive and all mail. And then it's sort of just existing somewhere. Anytime I pick one of those tags, it's going to show up. So if you have complicated situations or you've got different family members or different clubs that overlap, you can have it in more than one place so that you're not limiting yourself in any way. But that is a little bit of a shift from just thinking, I drag this into a folder and then that's the only place it exists. So
is there an easy way to only have it in one place? Because I put things in under label, but then I have to get it out of my my inbox. And it seems like if I search for it, it still finds it in the label and I don't really want it in two places. I have to unclick inbox so it's only in the label.
So yeah, I think this is how I would approach that. If I'm either clicked on an email like this, or if I'm in it, I've got the choice to either add the label, which doesn't move it anywhere. It leaves it in the inbox, but just adds a label, versus move it to that label. It will both add the Candace label and move it so it's out of the inbox and out into the all mail.
Oh, thank you. That's really helpful.
And you know what? I didn't understand labels for a really long time. So this is just a reminder that hovering over your options every once in a while, just to see if you know all of the features or if things have changed, is a good idea. Oh, there was a message straight to me that says if you search, oh yeah, so there's kind of complicated search options. Thank you for sending that. This is advanced, so don't listen if you don't care. But this is the suggested search that someone sent me in the chat. So you can choose to search in a certain tag for these words so that you're not having to click around all the time. So if you like sort of Boolean or text shortcuts like that, there is a huge list of ways that you can do very specific searching online. And I'll come back to some searching tips, sort of the third thing here. So thank you for sharing that, but we'll build from the ground up as far as searching goes. Okay, so that's archive versus trash. Any other questions about where these emails are going? Because if you are uncertain, then that makes Gmail not very useful for you if you're sort of afraid of losing something.
Stacy, I have a question. I know Google says we don't have folders. We don't have folders. We have labels. But if you use the move button, it actually does treat it like a folder.
Yeah.
Versus the label button, which just puts a label on it, right?
Right.
Okay,
Exactly.
so they do have folders. They just refuse to acknowledge it.
Right. So even if I didn't move, it's confusing though. Even if I didn't move all of these things to the Candace label, but just labeled them Candace, it would still all show up over here. So if you think of these as folders, it's still functioning like that, whether you move it there or archive or leave it in the inbox.
Yeah, it's a function more than a place.
Yeah, there's kind of not really a place necessarily. It's just where you've told things to show up, and the default is the inbox.
But I find it helpful to think about that in relation to the difference between those two icons up there. The
Yeah, and it's-
folder with the arrow suggests moving it to a folder, and I've never used the label icon up there, but I can see where if you keep it in your inbox, it helps you find it quicker or later.
Yeah, and I assume I can do multiple labels. So I can get more than one thing showing up. So now if I look for the Caitlin Clark one here, there it is. And if I look in Candace folder, there it is. Which is sort of muddying what you're saying, but you can think of it either way.
Yeah.
You're moving things to that folder and then don't worry about anything else, or the tags have a little more functionality. Okay, the next step to control what's coming into your inbox is to automatically manage your incoming mails with filters. Is there anybody already using filters? For me, this is a great way to keep my emails out of sight that I don't need, because if I set them to automatically archive, if they're coming from a certain place, then I don't see them in my inbox at all. So let me show you how that works. Let's say, what's a good example here? Let's say that I want to search for any emails that come from Margaret, because I had that email down there at the bottom. And I can hit enter. And if I go to these little bars for my search options, this is where I can create a filter. So I can say any email that has the word Margaret, I'm going to do something particular with, but that's a little bit dangerous, right? That might not be my exact friend Margaret. It might be all of these other emails with different Margarets mentioned. So to me, the best way to do this is to start from an email that I've already received. So here's Margaret, and I can copy her email address, or I can probably from this drop down, I can filter messages like these. So if something comes from either a person or a group that I don't need to see in my inbox, any email coming from this address, I can decide if these other things matter, but for a very basic filter, I want to skip those emails and send them straight to the archive. I could also mark it as read if that was helpful to me, or I can apply a certain label to put it in the Candace folder again. I could do some other options down here, and then I can create that filter. So I don't probably want to keep that filter because I might like to get emails from this account, but that's now in place and it won't ever put an email from this email address into my inbox. The other way that you might want to do this, thinking if it was one of these mass emails from an organization, I'll do these 3 dots, filter messages like this. And this one's a little crazy, right? So it has the word list. So this is pretty unique. Nobody else is going to send me an email that says, hey, did you see that great thing on 22 DCA 399, right? So if it has that code in it, then I can create a filter. And I could put a star on it because I really am excited about those IPR emails or, things like that. Can you think of an example where that is going to make your life better?
I was thinking of just something like Hy-Vee, who sends all this stuff, it seems like daily. And is there a way that you can then do it to that, but have it deleted after like 2 days or something like that? Because,
Oh.
I don't go to the store that often, so
That is
I don't even want to go through them unless I'm ready to go.
I don't think that you can tell it to delete them after so many days. Let's just see this. So if I come to those slider bars again, and we're going to make this kind of fake, but if it's from Hy-Vee, and I would really want it to be the exact email address so I don't get rid of a
Mhm.
friend asking me if I want to go to Hy-Vee. Then I can create that filter, and I could put it in like a new label called Hy-Vee and create that and skip the inbox. I don't think there's any way that I can clear that out periodically, but I can create it. So now if it's shopping day and I think, oh, what's the daily special or whatever it is they have, I can just click over here and the top one is going to be the most recent one.
And then is there a way to pick all to delete all of the rest?
Yeah, so let's go back to my
I mean,
iOS.
these are things I'm just thinking of how I could.
Yeah, this is actually the next thing. So very good, very good transition.
Okay.
So let's say
Anticipation.
I'm here in my Iowa News folder, quote unquote, or label. And I might read the most recent 50 emails since clearly I've got some catching up to do. But let's say I really don't need 189. So I can jump ahead to the next set of 50, jump ahead. And when I know I don't need any of these, I can click on the box to select all and then throw them out. Or I could remove that label if I didn't want them to show up in my list of things to read anymore. So I throw those
And is
out.
that just selecting that page when you select all?
Yes,
Not,
knocked me down about 50. So now if I select this page, it's 39 things. All 39 conversations on this page are selected. I do have the option that I could select everything in this folder / label. I don't really care to do that, so I'm just going to delete this page's worth.
okay.
So now I'm down to what to me is a more reasonable amount, and I can still toggle back and forth so that I get to my latest ones. And in the course of saying all that, I forgot what the question was. Can you get rid of the old things? Yes. So
Okay.
either within the label, I think that to me is a safe way to do it because I know that there isn't going to be some stray email from my friend that I want to keep, because the way this is set up is that it's from that IPR email address. So I won't make a mistake. Washington Post, I think I set up the same way. Anything that came from the Washington Post email address, I can get rid of pages at a time or get rid of the whole thing.
Now, if there was one in that page, you could unselect just that one, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So I've selected
Okay.
all 210, but I really want to keep this one about Greenland. So now, but I think it doesn't let me, I think it's only going to do this page's worth. Let's see what happens. Yeah, once you do an unselect, it's only letting you do a page at a time.
Okay.
That's fine.
And
Mhm.
Stacy, pages are not the same as screen, right?
Oh yeah, so
Pages are like 50 emails, even though you might only see 20 or 25 on your screen.
yes, sorry, that's a good point. So the Kavanaugh name, I'm scrolling down, it's all of these in this sort of web page view. That's a good point, because that was jargony. So everything that I can see that's highlighted right now, the 50 ones on this page, not all 111, and not just
Okay.
the 20 that I can see.
Okay, so you can look at that line up there to confirm which you're actually going to delete.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good questions. Let me try to remember, back to the filters. So I love the filters. Any business that wants to email me from something I ordered online on my own email, I set up a filter so that it goes into a label called shopping, although I wouldn't have to because I'm not browsing the shopping label. I could just archive them and then search in the mail for that business name if I wanted to see if I had a deal or a coupon. But if doing the big filters makes you nervous at all, that you might accidentally catch the wrong things or miss something, then you can just start by manually applying the labels to the individual emails. So if I think, okay, well, I guess I didn't really need this one, whatever this is, I'm just going to give it the label of something, club meetings. And then you can sort of learn over time, oh, okay, these are the ones that I tend to think of in a clump that I don't want to see. And so maybe I can create a filter that catches those specific things. You can also always ask someone at the library if they think that the way you've formulated your filter is going to be safe. And what I
Why
have,
wouldn't it be safe? I mean, I guess I'm,
yeah, so if I were to put in here, well, I want anything that has the words Hy-Vee in it, because maybe Hy-Vee has more than one email address that they send me coupons or news or whatever. If I were to make this filter so that it archives it automatically, and if my friend says, hey, Hy-Vee has a great deal on strawberries today, then I won't see that email from my friend. It's going to put it straight into the archive. So it's safer if I have the actual Hy-Vee email address so that I know exactly that I'm not going to catch anything from my friend in this rule.
okay.
But that's pretty straightforward. So if you do it by the email address, then you should be safe. As long as they only send you marketing things, and Hy-Vee isn't going to send me an individual email that says, Stacy, we think we found your wallet at the store today. So considerations like that.
I'd be calling them.
Right. Okay, so we started to talk about the manual cleanup. So if you stop
So
those emails,
Stacy, excuse me,
yeah.
when you do a filter and those messages automatically go to the archive, it's up to you to check that from time to time if you want to. There's no flag that comes into your box that says, oh, you just got more archive stuff.
Oh yeah, absolutely not. You won't
Okay.
have any idea. Yeah, so if I go to all mail, and if I've started to archive, I think Washington Post stopped sending me emails, but if I send them all to the archive and I scroll down, then that's where I'll see them. So if you start doing filters and you want to make sure that things are working well, you might want to do that a few times at the beginning to see. Any other questions right now?
And I'm presuming that it's easy to delete a label. And does it delete all the emails with that label?
Good question. If I do a click on these three dots, well, let's do it for the Hy-Vee one since I don't mind getting rid of that. I've got some control over the color of the label that is helpful to you. I can have it show up in the label list no matter what, or only show if there are new ones. I didn't realize that feature was there. And then I can also remove the label. If I wanted to rename it, I can also edit it. So if I get rid of that label, and it's gone. It wouldn't delete the emails because we're thinking of this as just like stickers that are stuck on things. It's more like you pulled off all the stickers, those emails would still be there.
In the archive, if you've archived it.
Yeah, wherever that email is, yeah. If you're doing the archive and add a label, then that's where you'll see it. As far as what the question I didn't want you to ask was, how do you see where all your filters are? And I know there's a place, but I don't remember exactly. So this is just a good moment to maybe do a search and see if that's not the right place to search. Yeah, I want it to be in my settings.
You're going fast enough. I can't see how you're searching.
I know, I want to just see if I can find it first and then I'll
Oh,
walk.
okay.
Okay, I'm not finding that, but I will send you, I'll send you how to see all your filters.
Also, is it easy to undo a filter? If you made a filter, can you undo it easily?
That's what I'll find, because the place that you find them know that I've seen this before. It's somewhere in the settings here that you can see. Oh, here we go. Filters and blocked addresses. I'm going to come back to the settings in a little bit. So just ignore how intense this all looks. But these are the filters that I have set up. Anything that is from this specific email address ending. So anything, oh no, wait. If it's from email@washingtonpost.com, it's going to do this. Skip the inbox and give it that label. Anything that has this word in it or this series of characters is going to just skip the inbox, which is the same as archiving. Anything that came from, is that sent to this email address, this is a feature I'll talk about later if we have time, is getting this specific label. Anything from Candace gets the Candace label and a star. So if any of these are something that I've changed my mind about, so if I want to get rid of this Washington Post one because I changed my mind, I want to keep them in the inbox and not apply the labels, I can just delete it. Delete that filter, yeah. For this one, if I want to make a change to it, I want it to skip the inbox and give it a star, which is nonsensical, but that's, or let's say mark as read. I can update the filter. And so now I've got two actions that it will do if it sees this specific thing. Yeah, so this is the way, if you're like, how come I'm not getting those Washington Post emails anymore? You can check your filters and see if you did something on a day when you were trying to clean up and you weren't thinking it through.
I have a crazy question here, but how do you get to your settings?
Oh yeah, so back in my inbox, here we are, up at the upper right.
Oh, okay,
Here?
I see it now, yes.
Let's just talk about what we see up here. So help is not a place I've really gone to, but I would always just search for Gmail and whatever problem I was having. My settings are in the gear. This icon, people sometimes call the waffle because it looks like a waffle with those dents in it. This gets me to my other Google accounts or my other Google services. So I'm in Gmail right now, but I could switch over so that I'm in Calendar or Google Drive from this little icon. Earlier, someone asked about having multiple Google accounts. So if I click on my little icon here, she might see her personal email address and then add another account to see her mom's. And then this is the way you would toggle back and forth. And it probably, if you save your password in your device, you won't have to log in each time. It'll just naturally switch back and forth when you click here. And so that, so let's say you have the tech class email open. If I were to go to another like google.com, or if I'm in YouTube or something else, it's going to show me this particular person's shortcuts or whatever. And if I switch it to my mom's account, then that's why her shortcuts would show up if that's her face in the little circle.
Thank you.
So hopefully you can play around with that and see if that makes a difference.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
So can you add somebody else's account like your mom's? I'm kind of curious. I mean, they have to give you permission, right?
Right. So she was saying she's managing both her account and her mom's account. And so she would have the password, like she's in charge of it right now. This does
And she's given me permission. Yes.
Yes, this does bring me to something fancy and new that I hadn't learned until I was preparing for this, which is that there are more features than just that. Okay, they've got collaborative email systems, which I think is if you're in a group, like a Google group, but you can also delegate access to your account, which I'll just do this really quick in case, you know, no one's going to care or they can look it up later, but you'll go see all settings. And then under accounts and import, what is this? Grant access to your account. So let's say your mother becomes ill or is in a place where she won't be able to use a computer for a few months doing rehab or something. You could have her give you access and then choose some of the security levels so that you'll know that she can read and send email, but maybe she can't. You'll be able to see all of the emails, whether she opens them or not, stuff like that. So that's interesting. While we're on this topic, there's also the phrase is make a plan for your digital legacy. So
Sure.
under your account, manage your account. And then under data and privacy and more options. There's so much in these settings. So to talk about all of the setting options would be like a 5-part class. We would have to get like PhDs in Gmail settings. So don't be overwhelmed by all of this, but just as a note, in case this pertains to you, you might want to go through these steps to decide what would happen if you were deceased or ill and you wanted someone to be able to have access to your account. If you don't want access, then just keep going as you are, but maybe you would want someone to be notified or be able to run things. It's especially useful if you're running a Gmail account as part of a club or something, so that there really are other people that should be able to take over if you're not sharing passwords with them now. So lots of options once you start getting into those settings. So don't get overwhelmed by that if you're still at the how do I delete an email level. There's plenty of time in the future to figure those things out. Okay. This is just quick recap. If your inbox is a mess, we talked about how to stop emails from coming. That's with the unsubscribing. We talked about putting them in the archive versus trash. So you can permanently get rid of them in the trash or get them out of your site in the archive. We talked about managing things with filters so that they don't all come to the inbox. They can go automatically somewhere else. And then we were talking a little bit about a manual cleanup. So that was if we searched for, the unsubscribe word to figure out where I'm getting all these emails from. There's also some other methods. So if your problem is that you are running out of storage space, which can sometimes happen, then one good search to do is in this sort of advanced slider part. You can search for any emails that have a size greater than, let's say, 10 megabytes. I'm not sure what I'll have in here, but we can do that search. Okay, so then let's change it so that it's 1 megabyte. Let's see if I have anything. No.
Hey, Stacy, excuse me, can you show me where you find that button again?
Yeah, back from here, there's the search box, and then this shows up once you start hovering over it. And so search options, so these are supposed to look like maybe sliders, like you're doing something very precise. And so when all of these different things are an option that you could set to do a very advanced search, that's the way that icon makes sense. So I could search for anything with this size thing. And so if you have received emails with videos attached or multiple photos, they will have a size greater than, say, 1 or 5 megabytes. So that's a good way to get rid of a bunch of big stuff all at once. You could also search for things. Well, this would be a way of finding things most recently, so that's not helpful for this. But
I'll have to watch that in your video, your recording that you send out, because I didn't quite get that.
Okay, like you didn't get where to find the option?
Yes, yeah.
So in the search box, you're not going to type anything in the search. You're just going to go to the right part of that box. And if I hover over these 3 lines with sliders, it says show search options. They could really just call this advanced search because that's what it is. And so one click on this little icon brings up this box for me. And so I can do an advanced search and get those results, or I can set some parameters and create a filter from here.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you.
If it still doesn't make sense later, email me and I'll get you some information. The other feature on here that's helpful is to search for any email that has an attachment. I do my search. This one has a PDF. And so I could think, oh, well, I don't need anything. I don't need those PDFs anymore, and just delete it. You will want to remember that Gmail shares storage space with Google Drive and things like Google Docs. So if you get a message in your Gmail saying that your Google account has hit 80% of its storage capacity or whatever, it's not just your emails, it's also all those other documents. And you can tell if anybody's had this problem before. Let me just quick go to Google Drive. This will be for my same account, that I can see what storage I've used here, which is I've got a lot left. And if I click once on that, it's going to give me the documents in biggest to smallest order. So if I'm almost out of space, I might want to get rid of this video or this slideshow. But for the moment, it is fine. Okay.
Stacy, I have a question from something you did earlier. You clicked on something and then you got you searched for filters and you got all of these like help things. Had you gone to help first about all these explanations of filters? I believe.
I don't remember quite what that was. Let's go back to
Maybe
where
maybe it was in help.
So I went to settings.
Uh-huh.
And then you have to go to see all settings, because the initial ones are just about what I'm seeing on this home screen.
What do you mean you have to go? Oh, I'm sorry. That's
so there's only so many settings here. But if I go to this button, see all settings,
okay.
There are like 100+ settings to choose from.
Yeah. Now,
So
this was something where you were trying to, maybe it was through help, but you were put in filters as what you were looking for, and then it came up with, about 2/3 of the screen had this list of topics.
Right. So that was when I was looking in the wrong place.
Oh, okay.
So what I did is I went to my account to manage my account, and I searched up here because I thought this might take me to.
Yeah.
I'll click. Yeah. Sorry, I forgot about this.
You started at the picture.
Yeah, and I don't know why this search is not going. If this search would work. That was where it basically brought up like Google results for all these different things to do with filters.
Right, yeah.
Is my internet not working? There we go.
There, yeah. Thank you.
So since I started from my account, it's Google account help. You could also just search this anywhere. You can search online, Google filters, and you would find their help page. Okay, good questions. I see that we are very close to the time. I'm just going to buzz through a little bit of controlling how this looks, since I sort of alluded to it just now. And then we'll stop the recording so that there's a clear end to the video, and then I will stick around as long as you want for all of your questions. So we'll just talk a little bit about controlling the way things look. Gmail's settings. So we're going to come back to this gear and look at what we see on this first page. So right now I'm in the default density. If I wanted to change this based on what I like to see, you're welcome to explore that. The difference between default and comfortable is that I see that I have attachments in these emails so that I can kind of remember, oh, this one has an image plus a Word document. This one has a PDF, if you can read that tiny icon. This one has a PDF. If I don't care about attachments, then this looks a little tidier. Then you can change your theme so that there's some kind of cute photo behind it. We'll skip over that for now. And then your inbox type, you can decide how you want to see things. This is important first, but important is determined by Gmail and some like sets of instructions that they create on their own. So they probably think that these are important because they were sent directly to my email address, as opposed to me in a big mailing list. But you see that some got through that aren't sent straight to me. They're from the big mailing list. So this is kind of imperfect. So you would want to have a care if you do that. You could also go for whatever I have not read first. So if I've moved things into lots of different labels or archived things and realized, you know what, I just need to see what came in the last few days. So you do that. If you utilize the star system, which I will get to in a minute, then you can see all of my starred things first and then everything else. So there's all these different options for how things display. You can play around with those, and if you have questions, you can let me know. And then the reading pane, right now I just see emails, subjects, and sender, but I could set it so that the right side of my inbox will show me the content of my email. This is a fake email I sent myself. Mission Creek is this weekend, FYI. And so maybe you like that so that you see all of your options at the same time as you're looking at emails, or if you didn't remember what the default was, if I try to open an email, it's going to fill that whole screen and I have to go back to the inbox or this back button to see my options again. Below inbox is also a choice. None of these are crazy important, but one person asked about the conversation view. This is email threading. So right now, let me switch this back. I have emails where I asked my coworkers yesterday what kind of pizza toppings they like. I can tell that this is multiple people because it's me, ... Victoria, and there have been 4 emails total. That could have just been me and Victoria back and forth about pizza toppings. But when I click in here, this was me sending my question, then Todd answered, then Beth, and then Victoria. And I can see the different times that they were sent. I could click on a specific one and star it if I want to come back to Beth's suggestion or whatever. This is my threaded conversation. Some people really like this because it keeps it organized if you need to go back and refer to it. But other people find that kind of confusing because where was that email from Todd? As far as I can tell from just looking at my screen here, I don't see Todd's name anywhere. So this is where you can change that. It's going to reload so that it's no longer keeping them together. So I have a separate email from Todd, Beth, and Victoria, all treated differently. There's no indication here that Victoria replied after this or Todd did before. You might prefer this way of viewing things.
And Google figured out that that was about food and put the response options in about yummy.
Where was that? Oh, yeah. Okay, so this is another thing. This is from the more Google tips and tricks. This is their what is this called? It's a Smart Compose or something like that. So yeah, they think, okay, maybe these are responses I'd like to make. I do not like their suggestions. That's a little bit weird to me to see those suggestions there. So there's a way to turn those off. Since we're kind of at time, I won't go into that right now, but I can put that in the email. Turn off Smart Compose.
Stacy, would you say again how you separated those out?
Yeah, because I'm going to put
Oh,
them
it's
back
under
together.
settings.
So under the settings gear, my quick settings, it's at the bottom for me. I don't know for sure if everybody will find it in the same place, but
Okay.
conversation view is the phrase.
Okay.
And now they're all smushed back together.
The other thing I found is if you hit just reply and not reply all, it goes to the most recent responder instead of the person who initiated the email.
Right. Yeah. So it's assuming I have a private comment to Victoria about putting mushrooms on pizza. But if I change my mind, either once I've clicked, I can reply all, Or if I get out of here, I trash this draft, so I'm not going to send it to Victoria. I can come back and reply all instead. And if you reply all and then you change your mind, you can still come up here and get rid of whoever you're trying to get rid of and just email.
Oh, that's a good idea. Because I'm sometimes wanting to reply to the initiator and not to everybody on the thread.
Yeah, so since I was the
Okay.
initiator, it's not going to look the same, but that's how you
Yeah, right.
do it.
Okay.
Yeah, good question.
Very
Thank you.
helpful.
Thank
Can
you
you
very
also-
much.
Excuse me, can you also turn conversations off so it never does them in the first place without doing the reload?
Yeah, so the reload is like a one-time thing. Once, if I click on this and let it reload, it is never going to do the threads going forward. It'll always be individual emails. Yeah, that's a setting you only have to change once. It's not specific to conversations. It's overall. Good point.
I have a quick question too.
Mhm.
So if like when the conversations are all put together, if I delete that email, is it going to delete all of them?
That's a good question. So depending where I'm deleting from, maybe I'm gonna click here and delete. And I go to my trash. They are all there. Yep, it does that all at once.
Okay, because I think that happened to me one time. I think it had put it together and I didn't realize it, and I thought I was deleting, one email, and and then I couldn't find. I was like, ah. So that's good to know.
Yeah. Just looking to see if I can move an individual one out of the trash. Let me just see if I can drag. No, drag it. Nope. Okay, not gonna work. Oh, I could. I think I'd have to move them all together. You're right. Okay.
Stacy,
Mhm.
So,
I don't know if you want to do this. Well, no, maybe you can do this while you're still recording. It's your choice. But since we're talking about Gmail, how about a Google Calendar? How do you do that?
Yeah, I'll come back to that one if that sounds good. That's
Okay.
huge.
before
other
we
topic,
leave the
but I'll show you
conversation,
how I'll show you how it integrates a little bit. Yeah, go ahead.
before we leave the conversation one, if the box is checked conversation view, is that the one that shows all the individual responses? Or it collapses into one?
Conversation view is where they're collapsed into one because it's thinking about the conversation. And if I unclick it, it's treating every email as a separate thing.
Thank you.
And there's a little question mark here. So this setting means that the groups are grouped together, but it's only because I started that email. If you notice, Candace sent a special email later just talking about her pizza because she heard us talking about it. So it's not like it was smart and it knew, oh, everybody's talking about pizza. I'm going to bring Candace's email into that. It's only the people that I emailed initially and our replies. Good questions. Just a few more notes about how the inbox looks and functions, and then we'll wrap up the recording part. Let's see. The app has different settings, so you would want to tap on those 3 lines and scroll down to the settings that you'll see. It's a little bit different than the browser options, so let me know if you have questions about that. So using the stars to indicate meaning, I kind of mentioned, I use this myself. If I get my email from Mid-American, I immediately put a star on it if I'm not going to pay it right away so that I don't accidentally delete it or forget about it later. And when you click on these stars, you have a little cycle of different colors. So you could set it up in your head so that the yellow exclamation mark means something, whereas the yellow star means something else. That's up to you, just how you interpret those. There's a way to control how many of those show up in the settings, so we can look at that later if someone is interested. Another option that is new-ish that you might not have noticed is snoozing an email. Has anybody heard of this? So let's say
I've
Candace,
seen it, but
So Candace emailed me about her pizza, but I don't want to think about it right now. So I can go to the clock over here to snooze, or the clock up along the top. And I can say, basically, re-deliver this email to me later today. I can't think about that until we're closer to pizza time. And it's going to vanish from my inbox when I click this. And so I don't see it here anymore, but it is still basically sent to me. I can see what I have snoozed. And then there hers is. And then I also snoozed something else for practice before this. So I can still see it if I, decide, okay, I'm ready to think about that. But it's not going to bother me in my inbox. These categories across the top, this was a new thing, in the last couple of years. You can turn this off if you don't like having your emails separated out by what it interprets as promotions or social media kind of notices versus real quote unquote emails. If you'd rather just have everything be delivered to your inbox, you can turn that off. So that would be under settings, and you have to go to all settings. And I should have written down how we get to this one. There's conversation view again. There's smart reply. So if you don't want it to give you the suggested yummy or sounds fun replies, you can turn it off here. Here's where you control which stars show up.
So is the star kind of like also like a flag?
Yeah. If you're used to using the flags in Outlook, so it's like definitely come back to this, or this is important, that's exactly how I use those.
Okay, okay, that's what I thought, but
it's just really a tool for your eye to catch things differently. It doesn't really do anything else. Okay, well, I'm not finding where to get rid of those categories. I might have scrolled past it, but just a heads up.
How about an inbox?
Yeah, good call. So I don't want to see the promotions separate or the social separate. And so now when I scroll to the bottom and save changes, because this is easy to forget to save the changes, my inbox looks very different. I don't have those tabs, and I've got a lot of other junk that I wasn't expecting to see. So you can always change your mind and put them back in, but remember that Gmail is deciding what goes where, and it might not be exactly perfect. Has anybody done the undo of sending a message? So let's say I start to write a message to Candace about pizza reply, and I forget to write anything. I just hit send. I can, if I'm quick, do this undo, and it brings my draft back up, thinking I might want to just make a change. Or if I said something and I realize, oh, I should have been nicer, or I should have added this other little thing, I can catch my undo again. But it is only for so many seconds. This is a feature that you can control in settings. See all settings again. And what is it under? Undo send. Here it is. So I've set it so that I have 30 seconds. That's the maximum. You can change it so it's shorter, in case that's a feature you want to use. And it basically just delays the sending. It's not actually going out to Candace's inbox and dragging it back. It just doesn't send it for 30 seconds, basically.
Stacy, could you mention once again, where do I see the undo? Where will it appear?
So on the browser version, if I hit send for any email, it pops up this little black box.
It'll be down at the bottom left. Okay. And you can change that in settings. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know why you wouldn't give yourself lots of time, except that putting it to 30 seconds means that basically every email that I send is going to be delayed by 30 seconds so that I have that possibility. So if you really are doing fast emails back and forth, putting it to 5 seconds might be better for you. Okay, well, let's wrap that up for today, knowing that there's so much more about Gmail. Please always feel free to come to the info desk on the second floor with your technology questions. Also, doing a search online for whatever you're getting stuck in with Gmail, you're almost guaranteed to find someone explaining it. So please let us know how we can help, and we'll see you at the library.